Marcus, you're a journalism major, so I just want to I want to start right off the bat with the OD gets it right, and I know they're quoting Trump, but a historic day versus an historic day. It is a historic day.
There's a bunch of grammar snobs that use the word.
This is a grammar. You're right. It's a grammar snob.
Yeah, they use the phrase "an historic" or "whom." Like
right.
Nobody talks like that. One of my professors.
That's a fair point, but I'll say this.
He's
when
reversed
you say
it though. He's reversed
grammar snobs. You mean people who know grammar? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean those grammar snobs.
Okay.
But there's little. That's not how we talk. When I was a journalism major, one of the things the teachers used to always tell you is write it how people say it. When you're in doubt, because at least they'll understand it. You might be wrong according to the Queen's English, but the people in your community know what you're saying. And nobody said, I've never had a conversation somebody said, and historic. If they did, I probably would have took their lunch money.
Well, but it's interesting. Donna says, let's say here, she said, this is from an English professor. Answer to a and an. It's something that has plagued English teachers. I wish I had an answer for you. It's the same with an hour versus a hour. Technically, either way is correct, they say. However, the proper way of being taught, and this is the way I was taught, and my research on this has been ahistoric. However, as we've mixed it up over the years, just like everything else in America, we're like, yeah, do it both ways. Either way works.
Well, when you say hour, I mean, it makes more sense to say to me it's an hour.
The problem, and that's the same thing with right, because it doesn't sound right to us, right?
And it's because some people if you're saying "and," you would say instead of historic, you would say historic and an historic day. It would kind of flow that way, so that's why you would use "and." But I just want to say I seen it both ways.
The English language, and you mentioned the Queen's English. They have completely different rules. The
proper way to say anything,
yeah,
to write anything is how you say it.
Right.
Nobody says "a hour." I mean, some people in my family say "a hour," but that's not the barometer.
Marcus, listen, what did you think, by the way, of Doug Adley, the ESPN tennis commentator? Has it gotten to the point where you can't say anything and there's a slip-up becomes something that's considered racist and you must be punished? Marcus, by the way, for those who don't know, Marcus is black. You're half black and half white, actually. Right. And was a former OD reporter and worked for me at the Utica Daily News and was one of the gems over there that helped us build that thing up years ago, long before its time. Yeah, we were just a little early.
That was great, but we'll talk about the ESPN thing because I go on forever for those. But he said she charged in that like a gorilla. I mean, I understand why people would say that that's oversensitive. I would be one of the ones that said it's oversensitive. But on the other hand, like, don't compare black people to primates should be the first rule of any broadcaster.
Right. Very good rule.
There's such a history there.
That's a good point when you think about it. It's the one thing you can't do. Even if you're saying I wasn't using gorilla as the primate, I was gorilla spelled G-U-E. I said guerrilla warfare. No, you're probably a good idea to just avoid.
Just don't do it. Don't talk about an Asian's eyes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's certain things that even if you didn't mean bad by it, you know it's a danger zone, and you can't make that slip. He could have said
cheetah, lion, tiger, bear, anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I look, I wouldn't have suspended them. I think people should say whatever they want all the time, so I know how they really feel.
Well, that's a good idea, which is why I have to parlay into welcome to Inauguration Day, President Trump.
Make America great again.
Who says whatever he wants. And day after Election Day, you were distraught. I mean, there are a lot of people still distraught on this day.
Well, there was a lot of things that Donald Trump said and did that would have been deal breakers for me. And I was surprised they weren't deal breakers for the country.
I was too. And think about presidential campaigns that have been derailed over the years.
Right.
Gary Hart. Someone. What's his name? The guy from Vermont, Howard Dean. All he did is scream. He screamed in an abnormal way, and all of a sudden,
no, I'm not voting for him.
See ya, you're gone. This was like I don't know. People were so fed up and bought into this anti-establishment, anti-politically correct, that anything he said was okay.
Well, and I'm not sure. I know that that's they were fed up, but there's a lot of things that I thought were deal breakers for America. That there's values I had that I thought were American values.
Yeah,
and I found out that they weren't. People disagreed with me on things that I thought we all basically settled as a society.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I just said, say whatever you want, because I from now on, I want people to tell me whatever they think.
Right. Well, yes.
Because I feel like there's a lot of things that I thought were taught in society that we valued as Americans, and I find out many people don't.
Do you think it's don't say it in front of Marcus because he's black, but wait till you hear what a story I have to tell you the minute Marcus is gone. Do you feel like that's what?
Look, I don't know. I'm struggling. I went around and I just asked everybody I could and listened to everything I could locally, because I feel like this is one of those Rust Belt kind of Donald Trump 109 a county, and I wanted to see where they were coming from. And I spoke to Democrats too, and I don't mean this to be just Republicans. In fact, there was probably more Democrats or just Trump voters. Maybe there was more Hillary voters. But the thing that struck me was how much people thought it didn't matter. Like, oh, well, we might as well try this. Well, this guy's president. He was president. What's the difference? The pendulum swings. And I think our society's had it so good for so long that a lot of things that government does because of hard work and people pressing and expertise, people take for granted. Like, that's just going to happen every day now.
Right.
And the reason why America is less civic-minded than other countries is because we have less to worry about. And I don't think people...
We do have less to worry about. And you are absolutely... This is something that we've heard through this whole campaign about how terrible things are. It's never been so bad. No, it's never been so good. When you really look at it, when you really look at society, American society, I know there's marching and there's loitering and, the Black Lives Matter thing was ugly. There's police stuff going on, all these things that are happening. We have it so, our poor today is a standard that our great grandparents would be laughing at. They would consider us wealthy today. Even the people that don't have, we're taken care of. This is not, but it's a rhetoric that works well in campaigns, and we bought it, and that's how people feel today.
Right, and the one example is, I remember the county executive did a ribbon cutting one time at Sequoia Creek because they leveled off the banks and they put pipes in, and it was a $3 million project to stop flooding.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, boy, if these guys were more cynical, they would just wait for it to flood and go in there and save a puppy, because you don't get any credit for stopping the flooding.
You're right.
When's the last time somebody was electrocuted by a power line?
Right.
Those are all things that are done by regulations and inspectors and the tedious work of hard government, and people take it for granted that they got good public schools, that there's equal opportunity. In a lot of areas, and they think, well, if I wake up tomorrow, that's going to happen.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I've done all sorts of fundraisers over the years, and when it's snowing out and I'm camped outside, people give money like crazy. If it's nice out and somebody's camped outside, nobody cares. Right. You'll be told, well, that person's got it. Let them get hurt, and then we can get the situation fixed. We have to feel the pain, or we don't care. And that's really where we are right now. Where we're really, I don't know that we're feeling the pain, but we think we are.
Well, I hope we don't feel the pain, because pain is historic, and it would be against my best interest for Donald Trump to fail.
Right.
That's why I want him to do well, and Democrats should work with him on the things that they think.
Is the boycotting okay? I wish they didn't boycott.
Listen, I wouldn't, just because we all kind of come together as a country.
Yeah.
But I just think it's un-American to tell them not to. People can do what they want.
I agree with that too. To say that to say they're un-American because of that is ridiculous.
No, because this goes against people's values. I mean, Jeff Sessions is going to be in charge of the United States Justice Department. When he was a judge, Martin Luther King's widow, Coretta Scott King, used to live in Alabama. She wrote a letter to Congress. You guys can Google it. And she was telling Congress how Jeff Sessions tried to impose segregation after segregation. Mm-hmm. They tried to come up with creative ways to keep people out. So because that hurt somebody's feelings, we're gonna call them snowflakes and make fun of them.
Yeah.
I mean, people think their freedom is at stake. One thing I wanted to say quick is, every 10, 20 years, there used to be these huge world wars. In World War II, we had enough of it because 80 million people died. We're not even approaching 1 million in Syria yet, and everybody talks about that. 80 million people. We had to draft people because they were killing our soldiers too quick. And we set up a bunch of institutions to protect our country from going into these big wars. So the UN, NATO, that's one thing we could take for granted. We haven't had another world war in our lifetimes.
Well, remember, to further your point there, we were not getting into the war. It took Pearl Harbor to get into the war, and that's when America stood behind the country. So it takes that moment, it takes something to happen, which you fear that could happen.